Everything at Jessy and David's house was fine until Jessy had a beautiful girl. Since then, their family dog, Benji, has turned everything upside down. Benji wouldn't let their daughter sleep alone, and when they were apart, she would bark and bark until they came back together. David got the biggest shock of his life when he understood what was going on. He called the cops right away. In just a few minutes, at least a dozen more police cars showed up. They started to ask David and Jessy questions right away. The couple was shocked because they didn't know how bad things were until now. But why wouldn't Benji let their daughter sleep by herself? And how did David finally figure out that he needed so many police officers? All of this started when Jessy finally got pregnant, something they had both wanted for a long time. But there was something that bothered them, and that was their dog Benji. Both Jessy and David hoped that Benji would be okay with this. If not, they were going to take Benji to a shelter for sure. Then, when Benji finally realized that Jessy was pregnant, she began to bark over and over at Jessy's stomach. Benji didn't seem happy about the pregnancy, and she started acting very strangely. They couldn't figure out why Benji was acting this way. Did Benji feel like she was in danger, or could she tell something was wrong with the baby? Jessy had to find out what was going on quickly, before it was too late. David was asked by Jessy to take Benji to the vet. They had to make sure there was nothing wrong with Benji before they had to choose between the baby and the dog. It wouldn't be easy to make that choice, but they knew deep down that if they had to, they would take Benji to a shelter. But the vet couldn't clear things up. He had the dog checked out by a doctor to make sure nothing was wrong. He told David that she must be feeling something about the baby. He told David that Jessy should go to the hospital to get checked out. When David told Jessy the news, she began to cry. She thought something was wrong with everything. Jessy got up the strength to call her doctor. He told her to come immediately. Jessy called her friend Anne. She had always been there for her, so taking her to the doctor's office was a simple task. To make sure everything is okay, the doctor did a lot of complicated tests. The scan and the other tests showed that neither Jessy nor the baby had any problems. Still, they didn't get the answers they wanted. Jessy didn't want to have to choose between her child and her dog. Anne gave her comfort. Anne told Jessy that when they couldn't be at home, she would be there for them. Anne would become their babysitter. This made Jessy feel better because it meant that someone would always be there to keep an eye on Benji. After a few weeks, Jessy gave birth to Lily, a beautiful girl. Benji was still acting strange, but now he started acting even more strange. The first few weeks seemed to be going well. David and Jessy were both at home to take care of their little girl. But when they got to work, Anna called Jessy to tell her that Lily couldn't sleep alone because Benji wouldn't let her. Jessy didn't know what to think. David didn't think much of what she said. Benji was just taking care of Lily because he thought it was lovely. One day, Anne called to say she was in trouble. Benji attacked her when she went downstairs with Lily. David knew that Benji needed to be punished for being too watchful. David went back to the vet with a sad heart. The vet gave David a choice. He could take Benji to a shelter or try to figure out why Benji was acting this way, because the vet thought something was wrong. Benji didn't believe him enough to let Lily sleep by herself, but David knew in his heart that there was more. After a while, they chose to watch Benji and Lily together. Lily seemed to love the dog, and Benji was sure to love Lily. One day, Anne called to say that Benji had bitten her. David suddenly understood what was going on. David figured out that Benji only did strange things when Anne was around. When she wasn't there, he was calm. The trouble must be Anne. He was aware. Jessy told David he needed to calm down, but she wouldn't let him act strangely. Jessy thought of a great idea. She told David to put some cameras around the house to keep an eye on Benji and Lily. Even during the day, they could keep an eye on Anne as well. Anne didn't seem sure about David's plan to put cameras in the house. She asked if it was necessary. David found this to be very strange. He didn't trust her before she started asking all these questions. When David looked at the footage from the first few days, nothing seemed strange. Benji kept an eye on Anne all the time. David was ready to talk to Anne. Even though David and Jessy were best friends, he had to do this without her knowing. David was very angry, so he yelled at Anne. "What are you doing to my daughter?" Anne had no idea what was going to happen. She told David she didn't mean anything bad. Anne fired back at David because she was so angry. What else could she have done? Since Jessy was pregnant, that stupid dog has been acting like this even though she wasn't there at night. Jessy then came home. Jessy was very upset that David had talked to Anne in this way. She couldn't believe he was saying that her best friend was a threat to Lily. Jessy gave David a choice to figure out what was going on quickly or get rid of Benji. David knew right then that Anne had said something that would tell him everything he needed to know. At night, Benji did the same thing. He had never looked at the night video before, but he will now. David gasped when he turned on the software and saw that every night the recordings were erased from the hard drive. There was definitely something very strange going on here. He chose to make a separate backup of the night recordings every day that was also encrypted. David was now sure that he would find out what was going on. Benji must have seen something that neither he nor Jessy could feel. The next day, David was eager to watch the footage. When he loaded up the recordings, he quickly saw that his suspicions were right. When he watched the video of the baby's room, he saw something come in through the window. David was so shocked that he could feel his heart beating hard in his chest. When he watched more of the tape, it shocked him even more. He had to call the cops quickly before things got out of hand. David talked about what he'd seen. They told him that they would send all the police to his house right away. David knew he had just found something very important, but why were there so many cops around? David called Jessy and told her to come home. A few minutes later, he heard sirens outside. The first officer was already there. When Jessy got home, she wanted to know what was going on. When David showed her the video, she fell to her knees. The cop told Jessy and David that they should be proud of their dog for being able to tell what was going on. After watching the video, they asked David more questions about how things were at home. He told Anne how their dog acted and how it felt about her. This made the cop angry. He asked, where is she? They had questions to ask her. He gave them her number, but they were unable to get in touch with her. Jessy told them everything they wanted to know when they asked for more information. Benji was upstairs with Lily, and when the police came into the room, Benji ran to the wall and started barking at it. Benji seemed to want to say something to the police. Something was hiding in the wall. They broke down the wall with a big hammer. They tore down the wall without David or Jessy's permission. Behind the wall, there was a secret space. They pulled everything out of there right away, including a safe. They had to get someone who'd open safes. While that was going on, other cops were looking into Ann Anderson's past. Jessy and David were shocked by what they came up with. There was no Ann. She was never listed anywhere and could not be found in a database. The whole life of this person, whoever it was a lie. Jessy broke down. She had been best friends with her for more than 10 years. In the meantime, Benji kept barking at the safe while the safecracker was on his way. She also watched Lily closely. She got a whiff of something. When the safecracker was done, they understood how serious the situation was. Inside the safe, there was a lot of money, gold, papers, and passports. When one of the passports was opened, the cops saw the person. Jessy yelled out, "That's Anne." They found something that Anne had hidden. When the police chief went to Jessy, he told her that they were dealing with a spy named Elizabeth Holmes who was working for a foreign country. She was wanted for being a spy in 17 countries. Jessy was shocked. She got into the lives of Jessy and David because David is the head of a company that works on national security. He can get into the whole system of national security. Elizabeth probably worked for a rival company that paid her to leak secrets. At night, she deleted the video and tried to get into David's computer by hacking it. Benji was the only one who noticed something odd about Elizabeth. Because of this, Benji did everything she could to keep Lily safe from any danger she could feel. Benji had made a big break in this case. Officers told David he should be very proud of their dog. They finally caught Elizabeth as she was trying to leave the country. She knew the cops were at the house and she was not going to get caught. But when she did, she told the whole truth. Benji saved the day.